Did you know that Mr. Beast, he posted videos for 7 years? 7 years before he blew up. And then he's the most famous YouTuber now. We often look at the Mr. Beasts of the world, and we don't think about that kid who was posting videos for 7 years before that. I think it goes without saying that everybody has a vested interest in becoming successful in their own lives. The problem with wanting to be successful is that in a lot of cases there aren't very many metrics as to what that is in our lives. Sometimes we just go to work and we just work really hard, we work long hours, and then we don't really know what we have to show for it besides a paycheck. Oftentimes we can find things in life are unrewarding and really ultimately don't fulfill us. So how do you be successful? Well, I'm not going to keep the secret from you, I'm going to tell you right now. But in many cases, we fail to see that success. In many cases, we fail to see that success, and half the time, we fail to see half of what we ever hoped for. Isn't it so sad that we end up at the end of the day feeling like we've accomplished nothing, or that we've made it to the end of another year and that we feel like we're not any closer to where we wanted to be? Why is that? Now, the reason might surprise you, and I'm going to tell you right now, but stick around to the end because I'm going to give you some insights as to how to remedy this sort of situation so that you're not in this constant cycle of trying and failing. Okay. So here it is. The reason why we always feel like we're stuck and stagnant is because we never really take the time to really think about and inquire within ourselves as to what it is we really want. Something that's interesting about human nature is that one thing that somebody might have a desire or a goal to have or achieve might be something that another person absolutely despises. A conversation with an acquaintance that I met online recently, and he had looked at the body count video that I made previously. You can find that up there somewhere. And the short version is he was diametrically opposed to pretty much everything that I said, and we actually had a pretty nice conversation about it. By nice, I mean civil. Of course, I disagreed with him, but that's okay. The thing about it is, what I talked about in that video is kind of the ideal that I have for my life, which is ultimately stability, assurance, knowing that I have a partner who loves me, who wants to take care of me and have a family with me, these sort of things. The typical nuclear family, the normal household, if you will. And he was kind of the opposite. He was kind of a proponent for doing the occasional hard drugs, to sleeping around and finding a partner that's in it just for, you know, the pleasure of getting into it. We had this conversation and it was interesting because we both felt like we were living our best lives, so to speak. And it was interesting to get a look into his mindset. All that said, you really need to reflect on yourself and in your own life and really decide what you want to have. Because what is a real measure of success? Well, you have to know what it is to win, what it is to succeed in whatever your goal is. You see, we often consume ourselves in the things around us, and we strive to emulate the things around us that seem pleasurable, that seem like the things we want. But for anybody who have had the opportunity to move out of their parents' house, how nice was it when you realized that you could do things on your own and that you could make your own decisions? And that's sort of what it's like with your life's progress and achieving your goals and considering what success is. For many people, success comes in the form of a job, whether that's climbing the corporate ladder or starting a business, something like that. Some people, the idea of starting a business is horrifying. Like, how could I start a business? But for some people, they can't imagine going and working for somebody else ever again. They start their own business and they never look back. So the question becomes, are these things that we're working towards the betterment of our lives, or are they temporal? Are they temporary? Are the goals in our lives and the things that we want to achieve kind of like a high school relationship where we're very interested at first and they burn really hot but then they fizzle out quickly? Or is it something that we want to constantly pursue and that we push towards? And the important thing to understand is that both of these are okay. Because either one, you're in a stage of complete assurance, knowing exactly what you want, which is good, or you're on a journey to find out what it is you truly want, and that's also really good. That's also very important. Either A, at an early age, you have a really good understanding as to what you want and what it is that you have a desire for, or B, you are on a journey to find out what you want to do and where you want your life to be, and you're learning things one step at a time, and both of these are really good places to be. In fact, I would argue maybe being in that in-between would be the most dangerous spot, because you don't know, but you've kind of tried a couple things, but you're not really in pursuit of looking further into anything. That stage of apathy could be a dangerous place to be. If there's something that's important in your life, it's generally going to direct your goals, which is generally going to direct your energy towards that goal. It's often said, especially at the beginning of the new year, that people don't have time to work out. I just don't have time to work out. When in actuality, most people really do. They have a lot of time to work out. The problem is that they don't prioritize it. The things that you prioritize are what's going to get time and attention, okay? For the people who work out regularly, they have prioritized their time and they have allocated resources towards that goal of getting jacked. It's not that they don't have time, it's just not a priority. which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just important to understand the difference between the two things. With this in mind, you need to consider your long and your short-term goals. The tricky thing about modern society is that it's very easy for us to compare ourselves to others and to kind of covet and desire what they have. You know, the Instagram social media comparison thing is a very common trope at this point. You know, everybody's done it, everybody's felt it, everybody's seen it. You see something on Instagram and you see the highlight of somebody's life, and you never see the background. Okay, you see the perfect shot of the beautiful woman who's by the beachside pool in Greece, and you don't realize all the trouble she had to do to get there, the 15, 20, 30 bad photos she's had to take just to get that shot. You know, it's like not understanding that she had to travel 15 hours on a plane to get there. You know, now influencers are one thing, but understand that things that look good on the internet aren't always as it seems. Overnight sensations are never overnight. They work hard for years and years and years. Did you know that Mr. Beast, he's one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, he posted videos for 7 years. 7 years before he blew up. He was consistent with his video posting for 7 years before he got popular. And then he's the most famous YouTuber now. And it's kind of wild to think about that, is that we often look at the Mr. Beasts of the world and we don't think about that kid who was posting videos for 7 years before that. But if we don't have goals to begin with, or we don't really understand what it is we want, then we'll never get to that. So we often become discouraged when we don't get some sort of success. You know, we don't even know what success looks like, and yet we get upset when we don't achieve it. Do you see where really having an understanding of what it is you truly want matters? For me, when I was in my early 20s, I knew that I wanted to be a dad, I wanted to be a husband, I wanted to get married, I wanted to eventually have kids, I wanted to own my own home. Now, I have achieved all those things, but I knew that the first thing I had to do was go out and meet that woman, which is truthfully the reason I went to Bible college. I went to a Bible college, literally one of the only reasons. The other reason was because I was living in my sister's garage for the longest time, and I rented a room with a couple of their guys for a few months before I left. And both situations were kind of crappy. But, you know, just being able to live out on my own in a dorm was like crazy. You know, that was an awesome new experience for me, and I learned a lot of things in that time. And as I put myself out there and did more things, I started to learn more things, and my goals and my desires started to shift and started to mold a little bit. Not only did I want to meet a woman, but I wanted to then become the kind of man that she would want to spend the rest of her life with. Remember that taking baby steps forward is still forward progression, okay? Just because progress is slow going doesn't mean that you're failing. The only surefire way to fail at something is to compare yourself to another person. What you need to be comparing yourself to is you yesterday. Because as long as you're making progress from your previous self, you're making progress, and that's what's important. So what have you done in your life to measure success? What kind of goals have you set for yourself, and have you hit them, or are you struggling to hit these goals? Tell me about it down below. Also, if you want to watch that video about body count that I talked about earlier, you can catch it in the end card. It's gonna be right about there. Anyway, thanks for tuning in.